Okay, so I'm Erica. I am a chiropractor. I co-own Axon Health with my husband, who is also a chiropractor. There's a few things you need to know about me before I fully get into this. One is I hate public speaking, so please bear with me. Two is, for as long as I can remember, I've enjoyed helping people. It's something that I love to do. So I knew that long term I needed to be doing a career that would fulfill that need. And then the last thing is my story starts with competitive dance. So I was a competitive dancer growing up from this tall until I graduated high school. Unfortunately, in the 8th grade, I had a really, really bad back injury that made me quit dance for a full year. You're probably thinking, hey, back injury, that's how she got into chiropractic? Nope. So I went to a physical therapist and he was wonderful. But now knowing what I know, I probably would have gotten better a little bit faster if I had co-managed with a chiropractor. So that's not where my interest in chiropractic starts from. Dance is how I got interested in human movement and health. So the interest in human movement brought me to my undergrad, which was a kinesiology degree. And during my summers, I would work at a chiropractor's office. And you're probably thinking, this is where her interest in chiropractic came from, and it's still not. For whatever reason, I didn't think, hey, let's ask the chiropractor about what they do. I didn't think to educate myself on it. And I was never educated on it either. So I go through a couple summers of working at this chiropractic office, and I'm still not really educated on what a chiropractor does. After I graduate kinesiology, I do what a lot of kinesiology students end up doing and become a personal trainer for about a year and a half. And it's there we go. Okay. So I get a job as a personal trainer, and it's this job that brings me into chiropractic. So I'm working at this job, and the chiropractor that we refer patients to, or clients at the time to, came in, and she's the one that explained what she did, and I had this little light bulb moment, and that's when I was like, I need to know more about this profession. So I go in and I shadow her. I become a patient of hers. During this time, I start getting sick. I don't know what's going on. It ended up being mono, but I was misdiagnosed 3 separate times by 3 separate doctors. And the third time, I went to my medical doctor and I said, hey, I'm really tired. Thyroid issues run in my family. Can we run a thyroid panel? And the blood work comes back normal, but the chiropractor goes, this is not normal. Let me take a look at your blood work. So I bring it into her, and she takes a look at it. She goes, they didn't even run a thyroid panel. They just ran regular old blood work. So that was frustrating, but it's at this point that I'm starting to learn, okay, there might be more to chiropractic. I didn't realize that chiropractors could even read blood work. So I'm like, there's more to this chiropractic profession than I even thought. I thought it was all musculoskeletal stuff. Why does a chiropractor know how to read blood work? So I'm interested in this. I apply to school, and I end up going to Palmer College of Chiropractic at their Florida campus. So as I'm going through this program, I'm learning more and more. It's becoming more and more than I ever expected chiropractic school to be. I'm learning how to draw blood, not just read blood work. I'm learning pelvic exams, prostate exams, and don't ask me to do that, please. I will never, ever do that on a patient. But I did learn how to do that. I will refer you out to somebody who is much more qualified than myself for that. But I'm learning that school is a lot more than I expected, and I completely fell in love with the profession. It's also here where I meet my now husband, Nick. So I fall in love with the profession, I fall in love with Nick, and I owe Nick I might start crying at this part, but I owe him a lot. He's the reason that I'm up here today, because he's the one who's pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. He's the extroverted one, so he would be up here not crying and doing this. But he's the one who's pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. He's the one who forced me to confront my dysfunctional relationship with money, which I'm sure many people in this room have had to confront as well. And he's also the person that forced me to stop caring about what other people think. So I owe him a lot. But we went through school together. We sat next to each other for a ridiculous amount of time in class, 30 to 35 hours every quarter of just classwork. I sat next to him. We did not kill each other, so that was a great test. We also went through a lot of life stressors through those 3 years and 3 months. It was just one thing after another constantly. So we learned how to deal with stress, and this is why we can work together, because we learned very early on how to do that with each other. But we graduated in December of 2019, and we ended up getting jobs at the same clinic out here in Colorado Springs. Unfortunately, About 7 to 8 months into it, we were realizing that it was not the environment that we wanted to be in. And so we ended up quitting, and we were at a crossroads. Do we look for other jobs, or do we start our own practice? So we did look for other jobs, and we did have other job offers, but they were at separate clinics. At this point, we had been used to spending an obscene amount of time together, so that would have been weird. And then they also wanted us to sign non-disclosure, so I couldn't really go home and tell him about much of my day because they were competing clinics. So we didn't like that idea, and we decided to go out on our own. And then we had the big issue of COVID. So COVID, there were some chiropractic clinics that could not operate fully, or they were having a really hard time staying open because of their overhead. They were having trouble meeting it. So that scared us. We didn't want to sign a lease and have this overhead that we couldn't meet, especially being a new clinic with no patients. So we decided to go mobile. And that brought our overhead down. It brought a lot of our risk down. And the great thing about that is we could also cater to the people who did not want to be out because of COVID, people who were immune compromised. And I'm getting cut off, but that's how it brought us here.
Perfect. So as an audience, now you guys have 20 minutes to ask any question that you want. So I'll start off with the first question, and then you can just call from the audience, and I can try to help because we have the lights in our face. Why Axon? What does Axon mean?
So there's a few reasons for that. While I was in school, I was also concurrently doing a secondary program called functional neurology or chiropractic neurology. They're kind of the same thing. So basically, on top of the regular chiropractic stuff that I can do, I also have additional training in neuro rehab. So it's a little bit different than you would say a regular neurologist. We take a look at how different areas of the brain are functioning, either over-functioning or under-functioning, and then based on that, we come up with a care plan to try to balance that out. So Axon is a part of a nerve cell. So that's part of where that comes from. But then the other part is the function of an axon is to transmit the information from this cell to the next cell. That's its only job. That's all it does. But Nick and I, we educate a lot. We're really big into educating patients, and we see ourselves as kind of like the axon. We give you the information to help you heal and feel better, instead of just, let's show up, adjust you, and leave. So we do a lot of education on that part. Yes? Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I see in Colorado Springs, there seems to be an uptick in husband-wives chiropractic practice.
Right.
Two parts. I think chiropractic has really gained more value. People look at chiropractic differently these days. I'm so happy about it.
Me too.
Are you going to pivot from your mobile work to a more traditional work as the environment?
Good question. So we thought about transitioning into a brick and mortar after COVID kind of stopped. But we've been really well received at this point, and to my research, including ourselves, there are 4 mobile chiropractors in the Springs area. So there's a really big niche there that we could potentially fill. And with regards to your question, I think you mentioned environmental stuff. Okay, so with regards to that, long term, we do, and this is hopefully happening within the next couple of months, but we're going to be getting like a Ford Transit or a Sprinter van, something to that effect. So quite literally, the back of it can be a mobile clinic. And we're thinking that we're going to do pop-up locations so that more patients can come to us in one area, but we can serve multiple areas of the Springs as opposed to a brick and mortar that can just serve one. So that's what we're hoping on doing. Yes?
Along the same lines, it seems like every chiropractor that I go to, they have a ton of equipment and doohickeys and thingies and stuff. How do you make mobile work for you keeping that in room?
Good question. So all the doohickeys. We don't have a lot of doohickeys right now. This is part of the reason why we want the Sprinter van, because then we don't have to carry everything into people's homes. As of right now, we have a portable table. I have a basket that holds everything else that I really need. And then the other thing really is pregnancy pillows. So for patients that are pregnant, we have pillows that have a hole in them so that their belly can fit and they can actually safely lay down. But that's really all that we need right now to function effectively. Doohickeys are great, but they're not necessary for being an effective chiropractor. They're great and they can offer a lot of other things, but you don't necessarily need them, especially to start out. They're expensive too. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So as far as your clientele, the people that you serve, I mean, some chiropractors have a very specific niche of people that they see like pregnancy
right.
or the foundational medicine or whatever. Tell us a little bit more about your ideal client.
So our ideal client, first and foremost, is somebody who's willing to invest in their health. Because we are mobile, we do have to incorporate that into our pricing because we can't see 20 patients in an hour like a brick and mortar might. So we are more expensive. So they do need to first see the value in paying for that. Second is, again, we're really, really big on education. So somebody who's going to be receptive to what we have to say to them and how to help them live a healthier life, that's the other part. Now, with regards to our specific, like more specific than that, I really like neuro patients, so post-concussion, that kind of stuff. That's kind of where I really like, but Nick is really big into bodybuilding in the gym. I mean, I am too, I was a personal trainer, but it's like, there's chiropractic and then there's the gym. Those are his two really, really big, what's the word I'm looking for? Niches, hobbies in life, passions. But so his is a lot more of like the athlete type person. But it still works with me because if they've got a concussion, then that's where I come in. Yeah. Yes.
As a new business brand in a competitive industry here in the Springs, what do you want to become known for?
Great question. We want to, I think we're doing a pretty good job at establishing ourselves as the mobile chiropractors in the Springs, because we mentioned some of the other chiropractors and nobody.
Qualitative attributes do you want to be known for rather than
just being the mobile chiropractor? We want to be known as the people that are trusted for your health. So we want to be known for the people who are not just going to show up and adjust you, which is fine if that's how somebody wants to practice. It's not how we want to practice. We want to make sure that we're educating you on all aspects of health. And your spine is one of them, but it's not the only part. So we want to be known as like the education chiropractors, if that makes any sense. Okay. Yes.
My follow-up question is that mobile, and I've been here a very long time, so, and I'm not discounting the space of a mobile chiropractor. I've just seen them fall pre-COVID not do very well.
Okay.
And what is the specific thing that you're doing that's helping you to gain traction from a mobile perspective?
So you're saying mobile chiropractors have fallen off or just chiropractors? Mobile, okay. Well, I think it's really important that you take a look at what's going on in the world right now and you push your marketing to help with that. So our marketing has been really big in, hey, people can't leave their homes. You still need help. Doesn't mean you're not in pain. Doesn't mean you don't have problems. We can still help you. You don't have to sit in a waiting room around a bunch of other people. And especially if you're immune compromised, run the risk of getting COVID and potentially not doing so well with that. So I think that the marketing has been really helpful. We did open up in the middle of COVID for the reason of catering to that population. And then word of mouth networking is just the biggest thing ever. And there's always that person that's like, my chiropractor comes to me, and it's kind of like this little fancy thing that they like. So there's always those people too. So we also have quite a few of those patients as well. Yes.
So you built your business around COVID. You launched your business around COVID. Now we're moving to level blue, and at least my optimistic hope is that this won't be a thing for a while, right? So what's your plan to pivot out of COVID?
So pivoting out of COVID kind of has to do with what I just said, is like we come to you. It's also really great for busy people. I have a lot of realtors who are patients and they're running around constantly. At one point I did have a patient say, hey, I'm showing this house, there's nobody in it, can you come adjust me real quick?
There is that.
So there is the convenience factor of us you don't have to come to whatever address it is that we're at. We can come meet you wherever you are. It doesn't necessarily have to be at your home. It could be at your office if you have some private space. And if you're a realtor, it can be in somebody else's home who has a door to close if there's another person there. But yeah, so it's very, I don't think we're gonna have much of a problem pivoting. And then again, the whole my chiropractor comes to me sort of thing is definitely picking up with a few patients, so yes.
I think the pop-up space is amazing because then you can, like you said, serve multiple areas in
Right.
town. Do you have spaces for that already, or how are
We don't yet because we want to have the actual van first before we do that. But the plan is to also target the areas that don't have chiropractors right now, the new builds that are all going up. We do want to target those areas first because all of those people are having to drive a really far way to get to some sort of
Will you
chiropractor.
do like a food truck then, where you just plop in the,
Mhm.
the parking lot?
Yep.
And okay.
Yep. Yes.
So you speak like you have amazing business acumen because
Thank
you're
you.
saying, you've noticed some amazing markets to kind of niche into. So where does that come from?
So I didn't think that I would ever be a business owner. And again, this comes back to Nick. When we were in school, he started reading Think and Grow Rich. And that's kind of when he started with I think you need to rework your thoughts of money. And then once he started reading that, he had me read it. And then we started reading business book after business book after business book. And it just kind of grew from there. I wouldn't say I'm a natural entrepreneur. It's definitely a learned thing, or natural business person in general. It's definitely learned. But yeah, it's just a lot of self-education.
Good answer.
Thanks. Yes.
Let's talk challenges. So obviously launching a business post-COVID is a challenge.
Mhm.
What kind of are some of the big obstacles you've had to overcome so far in just your short amount of time operating?
The biggest obstacles, finding patients is the biggest, I would say, the most obvious answer. The second is more along the lines of understanding our value. And when we first opened up, we were obviously not confident in our abilities to run a business at all. We still aren't to a certain degree, but we're a little more confident. But we were finding ourselves, let's do this discount, let's do this discount, what's our target market? It's people who want to invest in their health. If we are doing that constantly, then we're not going to be getting the person who wants to invest in their health. We're looking for the person who wants a deal. So that was a really big thing that we had to learn really early on with regards to understanding our value and also making sure that we're pulling in people who are part of that target market, not the people who just want 20% off or whatever it is. Yes.
So with the mobile chiropractic, I've been in chiropractic before, what's the like the initial visit? Because I know some do like the x-rays or they do
Right.
initial diagnosis.
Right.
How do you guys do that?
So our initial visit, we start with a history. We take a full history about what's going on and then also your health history, because that could play into it, whatever's going on. We do a full exam. We test your nerve function, we test your spine, we test, again, whatever. If it's your shoulder, we do shoulder orthopedics, all that kind of stuff. When it comes to x-rays, we don't x-ray unless it's clinically indicated. So there are some chiropractic techniques that require x-rays in order to figure out how you're adjusting that patient. We don't practice any of those. So as long as we're taking out the red flags, things that should not be adjusted, and we're making sure that it's safe for everybody, we're going based off of motion palpation for the most part. So seeing what areas are not moving properly, and then adjusting the spine based on that. Yes.
What modalities do you use?
So modalities we use, me in particular, I really love, it's instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization. It's also called Graston, if you've taken the Graston course and you can say you've done Graston. But it's basically a metal tool that I use to scrape at the muscles that are super tight, breaking up any adhesions, bringing blood flow to the area, breaking up scar tissue. I'm not kidding, I haven't had one single patient not respond well to that. So that's a big modality that I use. And then our hands are really effective, not just with adjusting, but with soft tissue and stuff like that too. And then we're really big on rehab exercises and stretches and that sort of stuff. But we don't have necessarily like a laser or an e-stim or anything like that right now. Long term, again, these things are expensive. And once we have the van and we don't have to carry it all, then we'll be going that route.
Perfect. Amazing questions today. I think everybody that raised their hand has already gone. So at 1 Million Cups, we have a tradition of asking a super special question. Who would like to have the honor of asking that question today? Perfect. Go for it.
What can we as a Colorado Springs business community do to support you?
Push me to do things like this. So if there are events or whatever, reach out, invite me. I'm very much an introvert. My husband is a super, super extrovert. I know Lisa has met him, and he's a little on the crazy side. So I am the calm one who loves to stay home, but invite me out to things like this because this is going to be very, very helpful for me getting out of my bubble and also networking. Yeah.
I'm going to let her stay up here for just a second more because I got to give her mug. But a lot of things that came out of your talk today is that I wrote down some notes because this is a community of abundance. So yes, there are a few chiropractors in Colorado Springs, but they have a market. They're serving their people. They're educating. And if you guys remember, I think it was last week or the week before, Maria was here and she always wanted to be an entrepreneur. She knew, even though everyone told her to go the regular college route, she knew in her heart she was going to be a business owner. Opposite, you were like, learned behavior. So if you have something, you don't have to be a natural at it. You can learn it. You can do whatever you want to do. So we're so grateful that you came out and that you let us push you to these new heights. And there's an extra prize for being here today. Well done. Thank you so much.